Absolutely. So my name is Adam Draculic. I am the president and founder of Chicago Growth Project. We are an urbanist pact that are dedicated to electing leaders who like single stair reform, amongst other awesome things.
My name is Nick Uniejewski, and I am a longtime community organizer here in Chicago and across the state. You might know me because I recently ran for state senate here on the north side. But on top of that, I grew up around construction. My dad has been in construction for a long time, so big fan of single stair and many other reforms we can make.
I'm Alderwoman Manaa-Hoppenworth of the 48th Ward, Edgewater and Uptown, and I'm excited because we just upzoned Broadway. And we also passed the landmark legislation, Green Social Housing, which is the largest investment in affordable housing in the city's history. And also, Edgewater has seen so much vacancy and low vacancy, and also a spike in our rents. And I have a kid that still is in my apartment on the couch, and I want him to find a good place to live in Edgewater.
Hi, I'm Beth Canty. I represent the 54th district. That's the suburbs, for those of you who are familiar. So I've got parts of Palatine, Arlington Heights, Prospect Heights, Buffalo Grove, Wheeling, and Mount Prospect. And I am a state representative right now, but I started as a village trustee in Arlington Heights, and one of the reasons I wanted to run for that role was affordable housing in our communities. So while I was on the board, we were one of only 7 communities in Illinois to pass an affordable housing ordinance to let developers know what our expectations were for affordable housing, to make sure they actually brought some with them.
Yeah. Awesome. So we're gonna ask each of you a question, but feel free to chime in, build on each other if you've got something to add. We'll go ahead and start with Adam. Can you tell us a little bit about Chicago's housing shortage, why we have it to begin with, how it affects prices, and why it matters for people trying to find stable, affordable homes in the city?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So, depending on where you look, the numbers are astronomical. I've seen numbers as high as 144,000 units that were short. I've seen even numbers as high as 225,000 units short. Either way, too many units short right now. And you would think, great, when there's 40,000 empty lots, just go ahead and build on the empty lots, and then we can go ahead and get everything good to go. But there's a lot of problems with that. Number one, you have problems with zoning, where it's very difficult to be able to build the type of units that people want. You have a problem with the capital stack problem, where it's hard to get the funding needed. You also have problems with permitting, where it's very hard to get permits in order to be able to build. And then on top of that, with our current building code, which hasn't been updated in a very long time, it's very hard to build the type of buildings that people actually want to live in, and particularly for families. As somebody who just recently had his first child, and looking on Zillow to find that 3 or 4 bedroom condo, it's pretty difficult to find anything that's in that price range that could even be remotely affordable for a family like myself. So, what we are looking to do as an organization is to help support those legislators that will actually liberalize the zoning code, liberalize our zoning laws, actually make it so that it is possible for us to be able to go back to doing what we did best, which is build. And if you paid attention at all from 2019 until now, the number of available units on the market have gone down in half. And coincidentally, the prices for available units have doubled. It's almost like when you don't build and you have less things available, the prices go up for what's left.
Crazy. All right, our next question is for Nick. So the people hearing about single stair for the first time, can you just tell them like a bit about what it is and what problem it would solve?
Well, I think a lot of the people who are here care a lot about this very, very niche issue. But there's a lot of things we have to do to build more housing. Single stair is just one tool we have in the toolbox, right? We have to do a number of things. But single stair reform, like you've been hearing tonight, it is a construction code reform. So right now in Chicago, if a building is getting built, it requires 2 different interior stairwells. The building I live in is 23 stories tall. It requires 2 stairwells, and that is good because it's a very tall building. But if you're trying to build a lot of the housing that we need right now, I live in Lakeview on the north side. There really are no 3-bedroom apartments or condos available for less than $1 million. And part of that is because it costs a lot to build in the first place. To build a second stairwell right now, that eats up about 10% of all project costs for any new build. So if we can do something like single stair reform, we can look at the other states around us that have done this. New York has done this statewide, Washington State has done this, Montana has done this, Texas has done this, and a place like Austin, Texas, which I love because on top of being the excellent example for housing, my boyfriend is from there. But in Austin, they were able to actually build so much new housing that the cost of rents went down. And so, again, one tool in the toolbox, single stair alone is not gonna solve this housing crisis. But if we can do that, make it a little easier to build, then we can get developers to actually invest in our neighborhoods, build on some of those vacant lots, and build the housing that we need in places like Lakeview, which are those 2, 3, maybe even a magical 4-bedroom that people can actually buy and afford.
And those are for, building how tall, like which?
Generally speaking, it's buildings up to about 6 stories tall. In some places, they've done it up to 8 stories. I think 6 to 8 is a pretty safe space.
Cool. Great. Awesome. Well, thanks for that. Alderwoman Manaa-Hoppenworth, could you tell us a little bit about what is going on at the city level right now with this issue? What would this single stair ordinance do and how would it help our residents?
Thank you for the question. I am curious to know who was at the last committee hearing for zoning to hear about a single stair reform under Matt Martin's ordinance. Thank you. Anyone here from Strong Towns or Abundant Housing Illinois? Thank you so much. So you all are really the fuel to the fire that is happening right now, grassroots-wise, to push for the reforms that we need, not only for zoning, but also, on the other hand, building construction reform. And we have in City Council addressed and upgraded some of our building codes. In it, which did pass, was interlocking stairs, which is not single stair reform, but it is a step in the right direction. And what we're seeing in that hearing, if you were there, was a lot of pushback from the fire department and also from the Department of Buildings, who needs to hear more data, to your point, of what other cities have done this before, how long they have done it. New York City has done this for quite some time already. The data is there that shows that single stair buildings do not increase the likelihood of more deaths happening. But this is something that also points to our lack of data around the housing in Chicagoland, which is one reason why we need a rental registry. We need to make sure that we understand the kind of housing stock that we have in Chicagoland. So that's another issue. To your point that housing needs to be built everywhere, in Edgewater, we downzoned 20 years ago on Broadway, and we're steps away from the Red Line station, which is one of the reasons why it's really important to me, where there are only 1 or 2 stories right now. Where is it that we can build? We have empty lots, too many empty lots. And I clearly remember a lot that is right across the street from the Broadway Armory, and the developer proposed a 5-story building. It was shot down by the neighborhood. He proposed a 3-story building, and it was approved, but because it didn't pencil out, it's still an empty lot. We need to fill those empty lots. It's gonna increase the vibrancy of the neighborhood. It's possible for more commercial spaces and small business to come in, and then residences to live on top. Our first commercial corridor, Bryn Mawr, you can feel that. You have the businesses on the bottom, and we have residences on top, and it's right next to the train station. This is what Chicago, was built on, the model, and we need to continue building to bring more people into our beautiful city.
Yeah, definitely. And Representative Canty, can you kind of fill us in on what's going at the state level, what happened in Springfield this spring, and maybe what might happen this fall?
Yeah, so down in in Springfield. I know all of you watch every committee hearing. You follow us when we're in session on the floor. It's very interesting stuff. The governor proposed at the beginning of the year during his State of the State address the Build Illinois plan. And it was a series of about 8 different ways that we can start tackling our housing affordability crisis, because it truly is a crisis. It showed up in the Senate as 8 different bills. It showed up in the House as 1 bill. And I gotta be honest, there was a lot of pushback. You will never believe who pushed back. I'll spoil the surprise for you. It was municipal mayors who felt that a lot of these changes would take away their ability to control their communities, right? So we're talking people over parking. You may have heard that conversation when we were talking about transit reform. Spoiler alert, it also applies in housing as well, right? When we have a lot of parking requirements that maybe are above and beyond what's actually needed in the community. So those bills are still pending, but I will give you some of the advice that I shared with some of the opponents. It's to read. I'm a big reader. I think that reading makes us stronger and smarter. And so related to housing, there are 2 books that I always recommend. One is The Color of Law, specifically because it speaks to why we have so many empty lots in the city of Chicago, and also The Black Tax, which relates to property taxes. And you're gonna hear a lot when you read this book, you're gonna hear a lot about our Black communities, particularly in Chicago. Again, getting back to why do we not have enough housing? Why is it so expensive? Why are our property taxes so high, right? Doing these things, reading, following up, reaching out to your legislators, that can all make a huge, huge difference. And so I serve on the housing committee. One of my favorite things to do is to bring out my lawyer skills to opponents of these type of bills and read them for filth. And so I'll do it all the way until we win on these bills.
Well, Rep. Canty, you gave us a great little segue there in terms of.
You're so welcome.
Thank you. Where would we be without you? Would love to hear from everybody. What can people do if they want to get involved in this? If they've learned about it here and now they think, amazing, single stair sounds great. How can somebody on an individual level, what should they do? What's the call to action? For everybody.
Yeah.
The floor is open.
So it all begins at the ballot box. So when you are going to vote here in the 2027 election, we're going to have petitioning coming up, and then we're going to have the first round of elections, which happened in February. And you're gonna have aldermanic candidates. I see a couple here in the room right now. You're gonna have the mayoral candidates. Knowing what those candidates who represent the wards that you live in and the city that you live in actually believe in is vital. You can also get involved with organizations such as my organization, Intent Wink Wink, and also you can get involved in other housing advocacy organizations. A lot of us are going to be asking those questions and putting those answers out there for you so that you can make an informed decision. But going up and talking to those candidates and saying, hey, where do you stand on single stair? Where do you stand on upzoning? Where do you stand on all these great things? And if they don't give an answer you don't like, voting for the other person who does give you the answer you like, that's where you get the conversation started. And if we do that enough times, eventually we'll have enough people that support single stair in office, and then we can go ahead and get that passed.
I'm gonna jump in though, because before we get to the municipal election in 2027, and please vote, but before that, there's one more election that is really, really important, and there's a lot you can do before this November, right? So every single state representative is on the ballot this November. Our statewide offices are on the ballot this November. And the people that are going to run in your municipal elections, they're gonna have to gather signatures to get their names on the ballot. That's going to start in like the next month or so. So there are a lot of opportunities to be reaching out to those who already represent you and want to continue representing you, or those who are going to try and vie for your vote as they approach the ballot box in November and again in April. So I would say push them. push them to have town halls, push them to have that conversation, ask them what they are doing related to housing, because there is a lot that we can be doing on the individual level, at the municipal level, but also at the state level. So there's 2 critical elections coming up.
How many of you have ever been to a neighborhood association meeting? Oh, lots of people in the room. Okay. There's a lot of development that happens at those meetings that determine the future of your neighborhood. A lot of these are not really bound by any legal framework. They're just clubs, in a way. But for whatever reason, a lot of, specifically the alder people in the city of Chicago, only listen to those people. And when you think about sometimes who shows up at those meetings, they might be at 5:00 p.m. on a Monday night. Not everybody can get to those meetings at 5 p.m. on a Monday. And at those meetings, what are they talking about? Some stuff, they go through a number of things in the neighborhood, but hey, this 6-story building, I think it should be 3 stories. They might not have any real reasoning to it. Building height, ooh, it just changes the character of the neighborhood. They're worried about birds, that does happen. But those people are the ones making decisions. So I encourage everybody in this room, if you have not already, please go to your block clubs, go to your neighborhood associations. Because think about 100 years ago, if the city of Chicago did not say, we're gonna be bold, we're gonna build a thing called a skyscraper, and it's gonna be 50 stories tall. And now people are getting hung up about 6 stories. You gotta get involved in these places. It is often free to join or a very nominal amount, like $10 a year, and that encourages voting power. So go to those meetings, please say yes to all new housing. We need to build more housing, and bring 10 friends with you.
Yes, bring 10 friends with you, yes. Before election day though, I want to remind everybody that candidates need to get on the ballot. So there's going to be circulating petitions starting July 28th. And if you want to get involved, go to votelenny.com. But to your point, I want to say one thing. Representation does matter, whoever is in that seat, because whatever their process is, it makes a difference. If you have a representative who ascribes to old school Parks and Rec, everybody come to a town hall, we're gonna present this idea, and then at the end of the day, we're gonna raise your hand if you like it or not. That's one way of doing it. And then there are other ways of doing community engagement where you actually get more people to give feedback through surveys after the meeting is over, and where people are not shouting at a mic. There are different ways to do community engagement, so that's why it's really important for me to do things like participatory budgeting, to find out what people want to do with the $1.5 million of discretionary money that each ward gets. Not every ward does that, so think about that when you're at the ballot box. And also, I just want to say, the best way that we can build more housing is to love our neighborhoods. We have to love our neighborhoods. We have to love our streets. We love our bike lanes, love our transit, love our small businesses, and patronize them, and love our public schools. This is what city living is really all about. We are condensed, we are tall, and we are living literally on top of each other, which means that we have to get along. So love our city and get involved. Get involved, call your representatives, find out who they are, each and every one of them, from the municipal level all the way up to the federal level, because every level matters.
Canty, do you have any last thoughts on what we can do?
All I'm gonna say is this. Y'all are here on a Sunday night to talk about housing. You are the future. You are the future. And I am confident that you all have friends, you all have family, and now each one reach one. It is your job to go back to your normal communities, your friends, your families, and teach them about what you learned tonight. Get them to read the things that you are reading, and get them to reach out to the people that represent them, right? And that way we kind of ripple out. So don't let it end here after the vows are over. Carry it forward.
Awesome. Let's give our guests a round of applause.
Yes, we'll do a little improv because these are our experts today, but we're gonna now include them in on something that we are experts at, improv. Let's have our improvisers come out, Zach and Callie. Zach and Callie are gonna perform a scene, and occasionally, this scene, by the way, is called, or this game is called Columns. Occasionally, they're going to run out of ideas, and they'll need some help filling in the blanks with a word or a phrase. They'll need to fill in the blank. Or if it's a phrase, you might say roses are red.
Violets are pink.
There you go. And you can do something that will help the actors or something that will completely throw them off. That's up to you. Their job is to make it make sense. So now for this scene, can we get a suggestion for a relationship? Like doctor-patient, brother-sister, or?
Coworker.
Coworkers.
All right, listen. I need the files on my desk by
Saturday.
By Saturday, all right?
Oh, what do you see? I'm really, really out of time. I need an